Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to do a watercolor painting of a beautiful landscape, and I've got my Lucas Artist Grade 1862 watercolor paints. I'm working on Artistico watercolor paper, and I've got this bucket of water. It's actually an aqua tote by Jerry's Autorama. I thought that was kind of fun, and I've never used it before, so I thought I would give it a try. So I'm going to start off by adding some water to the top half of the paper or so. I'm not going to wet the whole paper because I'm kind of working alla prima here, which is typically what you would, a term you'd give to oil paintings being done on one sitting, but I'm going to do this watercolor all in one sitting. And I got a little stray hair there, so I'm just going to rinse that off. Haven't used this brush before, so sometimes that happens. I'm going to go in with this, it's kind of a cerulean looking blue, and just kind of add that to the top here in the corner. Dance it across, keeping it mostly to the top and the right hand side. I want to get some nice morning colors in there. I'm going to grab a little bit of magenta. Pretty color, get that, some of that in there too. I'll put a link in the video description for the reference photo that I'm using. It's by Terry Decker over at Paint My Photo. I thought it was really pretty, and it's more of a western, southwest landscape, and it's not something I get a chance to see very much, so, or at all around here, where our landscape is very different, so I like to see different things. Now keep in mind, this is going to dry lighter, so you may want to adjust and work a little bit darker. I notice I'm going pretty light, so I'm going to add a little bit more darker of color here. And I'm using a filbert, which is like a flat, but it's rounded at the top, just because I know it's naturally going to give me more of those kind of cloudy shapes, and I do kind of want some like kind of sunrise cloud shapes in here. I'm going to go in with a little bit of Cad Yellow, and I'm going to add some of that down here, filling in this area that doesn't have any color in it. I don't want to go on top of the blue, because if I do it, it could turn a little green, even though the blue I'm using, well, the blue I'm using is a little bit more green biased, but this yellow is a little more orange biased, but still, it could still turn a little green on me. Then I'm going to go in with a little bit of magenta and kind of tap in some hints of some clouds. And if things bloom when it dries, that'll be fine, because it'll give me that, it'll give me a cloudy look, and it'll give me some highlights, so I'm all right with that. Now I want to have a little bit of a path here, because that is what is in the photo, and I thought it was really pretty, so why change it if it works? And I'm going to go in with a little bit of this English red, because that likes to stay put. It's a very heavy color, heavy mineral. You know, they don't want to move around on you too much. I'm going to just throw in some ground here. I'm working on the dry paint. Oh, I did wet the path area, but this is pretty dry. I'm going to take a little bit of, I'm going to try that cerulean color that I was using, and I'm going to mix that with the, whoops, I lost that, came out of its spot there. Oh, I hate it when that happens. If that happens to you, press in the little prong there, and then you can snap it right back in. I'm going to get this all over my fingers, but there we go. You can hear the snack. Look at that. Maybe I can just, look at that. Waste not, want not, folks. I'm the Frugal Crafter. I'm picking that paint right out of my hands. Wash my hands in my water bucket. You can't take me anywhere. I'm such a gom. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're going to go in with a little, what we're going to do, that's the wrong color. We're going to do cerulean, and we're going to do English red, and see what we get. See if we get a nice gray. That's what we're going for here. Neutral gray. A little bit more cerulean. My bucket of water is getting awfully messy. There we go. That's kind of what I'm looking for. A little bit of that into my path. Pull that in. Maybe in my rocks too a little bit. Still using that same big brush. Kind of twisting it and getting some organic shapes there. I think I'm gonna switch brushes here. I want to have a little bit of I'm gonna do a little mixing. I'm gonna see what I get if I do the cerulean blue with some chrome oxide green. And I'm gonna add little kind of bits of that around the path. I don't want a super vivid green, that's why I'm going in with this. Had a few requests for a landscape lately, so I did want to oblige. I don't do that many landscapes. I guess I'm much more excited about doing a landscape. I'm going to stick with the color I've already used. I'm more excited about doing a landscape when I am out in the landscape, when I'm outside. I guess that's my deal. But that will be happening more and more as the weather gets better. Our trees are blooming now, so it's not all gray and yuck everywhere, which is nice. A little bit more of that over here, give us a little punch of color. And I think I want to do some faraway mountains. I don't know. I think I'm gonna let that dry up just a touch more because I want it to be maybe a little fuzzy, but I don't want it to bloom into my sky. So I'm gonna let that dry up a little bit more back there before I attempt any mountains. And I think I'll go maybe make myself with some darker gray. I mean, I could dip into the Payne's gray if I want to, but I'm gonna see what I can get with the colors I've already used. Just because I don't like to introduce a new color if I don't have to. And let's see if I add a little bit of that magenta in there and a little bit more blue, what we get. Oh, see, that's a nice gray. It's not as transparent as I always like, but that works. So a crazy thing happened today. We'll chat about that. So my cat brought a bird downstairs to my studio, and my studio is in the basement of my house, and the bird got away, thank goodness. And I had the bulkhead open and a couple windows, so I thought, oh, he'll go outside, no big deal. He flew upstairs, and then he flew into my son's room. So I opened up the shades, I opened up the windows so that he could get out, and I tried to coax him out, but he was too nervous, so I actually just went, I left the room, and I left both windows open. I left the room and I shut the door, so hopefully the bird finds its way out. But it was crazy. I couldn't believe it, that poor thing. I hope he doesn't have a damaged wing or anything. He seems to be flying around fine, but he just kind of is just confused, I think, trying to find his way out. But so that's been the excitement around here today. Very exciting. I just want to give a little texture to that path. I probably should have done that when it was still wet, but that's all right. Oh, and something else I want to do is flick on some paint. A toothbrush works really well for this. I happen to have the stencil brush here. I'm going to just pick up some of this color, see if I have enough on there. Just want to flick some on there. I might need to let it dry completely before it works really well, but that's a great way to get some texture on your painting, like if you're doing a dirt path or you know, pebbles, anything like that. I'm going to see if I can get those mountains in now, and I'm going to go to my round brush, and I'm going to grab that Cerulean, and a little bit of magenta. My brush doesn't have to be super clean because this is far away, and I'm going to grab some of that gray that I mixed in there too. And I'm just going to start, I think I'm going to start way down here. Start building this little mountain range. Bring it across. If I want a thick line, I'll hold my brush more at an angle like that. If I want a thin line, I can go right up on the tip and hold it at a 90-degree angle with my paper. So that works really, really well. And this is going to be shadowing kind of like a bigger mountain up here. So I'm just kind of painting in my shadows. Skipping around a paper like this is kind of weird because I do have something else that's coming in through here, so I'm just being mindful to kind of keep some of these spaces open and available. And then below that, I'm going to do a little more magenta in that color. I want it to be more purple. And I'm going to go right underneath that and do another layer of landscape. And I kind of look at a landscape when I'm doing it almost as an abstract piece, and I go, okay, what does this need? What sort of shape should I have here? What would make this look better? And that's kind of how I approach it. I'm going in with some of that English red. I'm going to just add some of that in there. Let it do its thing. I tip my paper. Give it a good tap, let it make some cool shapes. Over here, the mountains up top are going to be warmer. They're going to be more lit by the sun. That's not the yellow that I used. I'm going to go back in that yellow that I used. We had a little bit of that light red. That's a little too watery. Paint in these brightly sunlit peaks. And a little magenta, I think. Because we've got those sky colors that should be reflected. I like magenta. I want a little more of that in there, so I'm going to put it in there. It's my world. I can do it. Your world, you can do what you want to do. That's what's so awesome about art, guys. That's going to need a little more detail later. That's alright for now. Even bring a little bit of that color over there, cross-pollinate a bit. We can touch up this stuff later. And now, what I want to do is get some middle ground in here. Hopefully I can do it without disturbing too much there. This isn't typically how I work, but that's okay. Sometimes you're gonna try something different. This is how I wanted to paint this. I want some gray. There's a lot of gray in this landscape, and the gray will help everything else kind of pop. So my gray was that cerulean blue color, and my English red. You could also use a burnt sienna. They're very similar to an Indian red as well. Different pigment combinations, different paint companies have different names for things. But as long as you're getting something that's in the right ballpark, it's in the right color family, you're going to be all right. I want to have some green over here. We can do a little mixing on there too if we want. Throwing that in there. It deadened out the color a bit. It's not natural looking. Tube greens or pre-mixed greens I found often, except for sap green for some reason, tend to look quite dead for some reason. So you usually have to alter them a bit or mix your own to get a really nice color. Look how nice and fresh that looks. Maybe a little too much water on there. If you want to shake up your painting style, sometimes it's fun to try a different brand of paper. That can really make things, give you a new outlook on things. I don't know why that is exactly, but I think just sometimes using a different color than you used to or different paper can really help you kind of grow as an artist, or sometimes that technique that hasn't been working in with the materials that you've been using, and just by trying a different type of paper, it can really make a big difference. I want to have some of this foliage in the foreground kind of come up. We'll do branches in a little bit after the midground is dry, but just to kind of place hold a little bit. It's fun to see the paint hit wetter areas and kind of meld around. I like the way that does. Little bits of yellow and brown in there. Get that Southwestern look. Okay, and I wonder, oh good, my heat gun is plugged in. I'm gonna just dry this area really quick, and then we're gonna go in, and there's like a landmass structure here I want to get in, like a little outcropping of rock. So I just need to have this area dry in here to make that happen. I love the little blooms that are coming from like the damp paper, the wet paint next to the damp paper. It's made some really interesting marks in there and textures, and I like that. I'm going with it. I'm switching to a flat 1/2 inch. These are all Ebony Splendors. I'll put a link to the kit that I was using here that all these came out of. I'm going to need a pretty dark color. I'm going to start off with my magenta. I'm going to go with my blue. which isn't a very dark blue. It's actually got a little more opacity to it than I typically like. But I'm going with colors I've already used so that I can come up with a harmony in my painting. I'm going to go with this, a little more blue, and see what we get. That's really not as dark as I want it, but I think once it's on the paper, it's going to be all right. And you know what, I'm doing this, and you're probably like, Lindsay, you're messing up your palette. All I have to do is clean my brush and wipe it across there, and I will clean that right up, so don't worry about that. Okay, I'm going to start just by kind of sculpting this area. And also, it helps me not put too much water in when I do it that way. Twisting my brush so I get some interesting shapes there, and pulling this outcropping across and pulling it down, and then we're going to pick it up over here again. It's kind of like you're on this path. Maybe you're wandering along this path, and you look out and you see a beautiful vista. You're on this road here that we're going to define a little bit more in a moment. There. Okay, so now we've got a little bit more happening in the mid-tone, and I'm going to just kind of tap on some rocks. So I do need a little bit more water on my brush to do that. Get some. I don't want to get rid of all my little shapes, all my little tumbleweeds, all my little blooms. I don't want to get rid of all that, but I do want to kind of scruffy it up a little bit, give it a little texture. Put some little plants in there. I'm letting it mix on the paper too. I'm not doing everything on the palette, letting some mix on the paper. Now I'm going to go back in with texture on the road, so I'm going to pick up all this dirtiness on my palette and flick it on. You can use toothbrush, you can use an oil painter's brush. There we go. You can use more colors if you want to than I did. That's fine. It's up to you. I'm going to kind of even pounce some of this on there with that brush because I feel like I just need a little bit thicker application here and there. And then sometimes you want to do something a little bit different, right? I'm going to use this. I don't know if this is thick, if this is stiff enough for it, but oh yeah, I'm going to just kind of drag up some scruffy. I'm going to drag up some scruffy foliage here. So let me mix up some more of that dark. I really should have had a darker color in here. I should have used a Payne's Gray, or I should have introduced something darker. It's too late now really to do that, but that would have been smart because now I'm really limited to the dark, how dark I can get. That's the darkest kind of, that's the darkest I can seem to get right now, so I'm kind of regretting that a bit. So I'm going to throw in some of that and just kind of flick my fan brush. Some grasses. Get nice and juicy on there and just flick it. And see what happens with the fan brush is these bristles splay apart and you can get some really cool effects. I'm going to go in with a little bit of green. Gonna throw it right in there. Some people are going to just be horrified with my palette right now. It'll clean. Chill. Chill out, people. Chill out, imaginary people that have problems with my palette. Flick that up, and then I'm just going to drip in some colors into that because we've got this nice juicy paint, so I'm going to drip in some blue. I'm dripping some yellow too. Let it do its thing. Let it have fun in there. Let it surprise us when it dries. What are you going to do, paint? What are you going to make for us today? Some highlights along the path. Light the way. Light our way along the path. And we'll flick some of that up so we have a little texture there. And I want to do some final branches. I think I need to blast it with a heat tool for a moment to do that. Okay, so now I'm going to my flat brush and I'm going to bring some detail into the mountains far away. I'm going to work myself forward in the painting, starting here at the horizon. And I'm going to start with some kind of purpley colors in the magenta. I'm magenta and blue here. And I am just going to kind of carve out some of the shapes back there. Not a ton of detail, just a little bit. Just to say, yep, we've got some mountains back there. Now I'm going to do more of the purple. And I'm mixing right on like the area where I've already had some like browns and grays and stuff. I want everything to feel like it's all from the same area, so that's why I'm doing that. I'm going to get this little mountain, layers of mountain range in here. I feel like that needs a little bit more brown to it, especially to bring it and pull it forward. Brown's a little bit warmer than that bluey purple, so I want to bring it forward. So we can start to see the layers of the landscape, the levels and the layers. Now I'm rinsing my brush and pinching off the extra water, and then I'm just gonna pull that out a little bit just to kind of let it fade away, fade as it comes down. Doing that again, pinching out the extra water, just pulling this out. Okay, so over here, this really is lacking a strong focal point. So I feel like there was a small bush over here. So I think I'm gonna accentuate that. I'm gonna exaggerate it. Please excuse I'm mumbly today. I don't know why. It's probably because I've been just like working by myself all day, prepping a workshop. So I've just been kind of like I don't know, just la-di-da in my own world all day. So I apologize. So I'm just kind of mixing up some of this dark so I kind of have a silhouette color. It's kind of my darkest dark, which, you know, we've gone over that. Not my brightest moment, and that it's not darker, but it's gonna be fine. It's gonna have harmony. So I'm gonna put this kind of like, I'm making it bigger than it is in the photo. And again, photo's linked in the video description. I'm just kind of trying to get an interesting shape, and I'm thinking like maybe this poor tree has just been battered down by the wind. It's had a hard life, and yet it still is hanging in there. It still has hope. Please excuse the furnace. Why in the heck is the furnace coming on? It's like 77 degrees out there. Why don't I pause it? We'll let this dry. We'll come back and finish it up after my furnace shuts off. Okay, we're back. I'm gonna leave that branch there, that tree there, just the way it is for the moment, and I want to do a little more refinement on the path. So I'm gonna grab that same gray that I was just using with a flat brush, and I just want to get a little bit more distinction along the edge of this little path, this little road, because it doesn't really look like much right now. So I'm just gonna kind of get some wear marks on the road here. And that might not be dark enough. We might decide that we have to go in there later and darken it, but that's all right. And then I feel like I want to lighten up this little kind of area in here. Let's go in with this yellow and a little bit of that dirty brown color we have up there. Maybe a little bit of green, so it's got like some, you know, some moss or I don't know, something growing here. Let's just kind of reclaim this hill in front of the outcropping of rock. And I'm just kind of pushing the paint around. I think I'm going to need some rocks in there too. Mix up a nice gray again. Get our rocks in there. It'd be hard to see with the glare. Sorry if it's hard to see with that glare. Little pebbles, very rocky, pebbly landscape. All right, so let's go and add some branches to this little shrub over here. And maybe a little more color there. These colors wet up really well. Boy, I got this like a week ago and it's already a mess. My palettes always look so messy. That's all right. I'm not building a museum of art supplies here. These supplies are meant to be used, right guys? More water. If your paint's not flowing, throw in a little more water. There we go. And then I think now that I've given a place for that to sit, I'm thinking I want to darken the, kind of want to darken the area behind there. Boy, I'm using every color in the box. I'm not using every color in the box. I'm using every color that I've already used, though. I feel like I just want to push back some area here, so I'm going with this cooler, darker color, and I'm just kind of reclaiming that area. And while I'm at it, I feel like I still want some more speckly there. I'm going to go back in with a stencil brush, though, because that's not stiff enough to maneuver anything. What is that? Oh, stray hair. And let's take a look. Let's see. What do we think of this? I still feel like it needs a little something, and I noticed I spattered some stuff into the sky, so I think I'm going to take the opportunity to throw some birds in there flying over the beautiful morning landscape. So I'm going to mix myself up some more dark. So I got the magenta, and I've got the blue, and actually I think that'll be dark enough. Let's do that. Grab a little bit of that Indian red there. English red they call it. And I'm just going to put some birds to, some birds like my lovely bird that is currently upstairs in the house. I don't know, maybe he's made it out, I'm not sure. There we go. They kind of look like bats. It can be a bird, it can be a bat, whatever you think. Give it the little bit more defined wings there. I think I'm also gonna maybe darken up the trunk of this a little bit more. I'm feeling like this isn't substantial enough. Our lone tree on the mountaintop. There we go. I always think it's funny when like people that aren't from the coast paint lighthouses, because like, you know, you'll just see things like, oh yeah, that they're not from here. You know, and probably somebody from the Southwest is like, oh, she's not from here. We can tell that for sure. Maybe put like a bird in the tree here. Just a little one, just enough, just only enough. That's horrible. Only enough. Oh, let's put another one in there. That one looks so horrible. Let's throw another bird in there. Yeah, what that happened here? Let's give him a beak. There we go. That kind of looks like a bird now. A little bit. Maybe give it a little bit more of a branch to perch on. Okay, now the tree's going to become bigger. See, this is what happens. This is where you run into trouble, guys. You're watching the downward spiral of a painting right now when you're like, oh, I'm just going to add this one little thing. See, what I should have done was, you know, made myself a cup of tea and then been like, well, let's think about this, see what the painting needs. Maybe it doesn't need anything, but instead I prefer to charge right ahead and potentially ruin. Some people say, how do you know your painting's going to come out good? I honestly don't know. I mean, I hope, and I have enough experience that usually turns out all right, but there's really no knowing for sure. But I think our little bird's going to be all right there. We're going to fatten her up. It's been a good winter in the desert. That bird's done all right. Oh my gosh, what did I do? Well, we're going to leave it. That's fine. It was better before I made the big honking nose on it, but a couple more little definitions in the path. I think we need some directional lines in there, otherwise people aren't really going to know what's going on here. It's a path, people won't know that unless I get some direction going there. But I think we're done. I think that's that. I hope you liked it. I hope you try it and use those paints. Have fun with them. And until next time, happy crafting.